Hey everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast, and you know the drill by now. This week we've got the full crew in the house once again, so I'll be kicking the ball over to John, Randall, and I for a little chit-chat coming up here in just a bit. It is a little bit of a shorter and sweeter conversation. I know I say that all the time, but went on a trip over the weekend, or actually over the last 4 days with some friends, which I'll probably be digging into some of the stuff that we checked out at one of the arcades that we went to in just a minute here to get into some of the stuff that I've been playing. But once I kick it over to John, Randall, and I for a short and sweet little bit of chit chat here. It's mostly me kind of taking the lead here, talking some Mario Golf Super Rush after revisiting that game and finally giving it yet another chance. And I will say it kind of, it opened my eyes a little bit to that game and has me at least, I don't want to say excited, but at least moderately anticipating whatever they do next with the Mario Golf series. Even though it still isn't quite exactly what I'm looking for, I do think leaning into those speed rush modes, or the speed version of the gameplay, which I talked about before and we'll talk about coming up, is definitely enhances the overall core gameplay. But it is, I did write it off as being a little bit more shallow than the original games, and it does have some depth to the shot taking and stuff like that, but it does strip some of it away as well. So I'll talk about that a little bit as well, and then talk about a little bit of Rhythm Heaven. I've been revisiting the original, or I guess it's not the original, but the first one that I ever had on the Nintendo DS, sort of in anticipation, if you will, of the new one that's going to be coming out on Nintendo Switch. Although, as I'll get into in just a little bit here, it didn't quite grab me to the point where I'm definitely not going to be scooping up that newest iteration of the game in the series on Switch. So a little bit of a bummer there. And yeah, actually right around the corner here too, after just getting back from this trip, I feel like I've just been so busy lately, just haven't had any time to game, and my back pain has just been out of control. But right around the corner, 2 weeks away, we've got the 5th annual Pursuing Pixels James Jam Game Gam. So I'm gearing up for that as well, hoping that I can use that to kind of use that as a little nudge to get me back into doing some live streaming again and making some videos with some commentary, because I have kind of put that on the back burner and just done some regular old videos for the time being, just with gameplay and whatnot. So hopefully I'll get back to some of that soon, and I'll definitely be doing some proper streams for the Game Jam entries themselves. But we'll see, where things go from there. I'm hoping that I can use that to kind of, hit the ground running after the summer and start checking out some games and making some proper videos again. But yeah, enough of the kind of recap of this conversation coming up here, and I think I'll dig into some of the games that I've been checking out recently. And like I said, went up to Traverse City, which is up north here in Michigan, with some of my friends over the weekend, or over the last 3 or 4 days. And we went to this arcade called the Coin Slot. And right away, as soon as I saw that name, it kind of rung a bell. And our buddy Matt Glanville, who also goes by Crowbar Ska, is their handle online. But we've talked about a number of their games over the years on the podcast, and they had messaged me, probably years ago at this point, or at least ages ago, about a game that they developed for arcades. Specifically, it's an arcade cabinet only called Perfect Pour. And as soon as I saw the name of this arcade, the Coin Slot, I was like, that kind of sounds familiar, because Matt had sent me a list of hey, I know you live kind of around some of these arcades. Any chance any of these are anywhere near you? And I, saw them on the map, and I'm like, yeah, they're kind of in states that I live in or nearby. But it'd be a little bit of a hike. But then, for whatever reason, I was like, wait, I think it's here. And sure enough, found it. And it's, a little bit of a twist on Root Beer Tapper, if you will, but definitely doing its own thing. And there's actually another game that I might have talked about on the podcast, or maybe not. But when I checked out my buddy Nathan, who was actually on the trip with us, he has one of those Playdate handheld consoles. And he let me check out this game a while back called Root Bear. And the gameplay on this Perfect Pour is very reminiscent of that. But the way that this Perfect Pour works is, and I guess the way Root Bear works as well, but Perfect Pour kind of adds a little bit of a, chaos element to the mix, where you have, I thought it was a 4-player game, because you walk up to the arcade cabinet, there's 4 handles, kind of like little mini tap handles, if you will, very reminiscent of the Root Beer Tapper, handle, the way you play that game, and there's no buttons or anything like that. And then basically customers will come up to any one of the 4 handles and kind of put a glass in front of you, and it might be a tulip-shaped glass, or regular pint, or a few different styles of beer glasses, or maybe even a pitcher. And then you have to pull the handle, and then it'll start filling up that pitcher or that glass or whatever it might be. And there's a couple different lines, one to just fill it enough, one to fill it perfectly, one to fill it, good. You basically get a higher score based on how perfectly you fill the glass. But if you don't fill it enough, it just kind of tips over, or if you overfill it, it tips over, and the customer starts getting antsy and a little bit angry, and you only have a limited amount of time, at least on the mode that I was playing. Apparently, I was messaging Matt when I saw the game out in the wild, and he mentioned like, oh, you must have been playing the more difficult mode, because I guess there's a version where even if you overfill, like the customers don't get like quote unquote thirsty and angry. They just kind of let you play out the timer. But it was pretty cool. Like, it was only $1 to jump into the action. It actually gave me like 3 lives or 3 credits. So at first, like, I died or lost right away because I didn't realize like I was on a timer on some of these customers that were getting angry, and just was kind of learning the gist of the game. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already out of my $1 credit. Those are all the quarters I had on me, and I obviously could have went and got some more, but I was like, oh, you know what, this will suffice. And I got 2 more rounds in and did halfway decent. I'm sure if I played another couple rounds, I could definitely get the hang of it. But it is really satisfying, like those tap handles, just like on Root Beer Tapper, just feels so satisfying to pull and release. And it really starts to get tricky where like 2 or 3 customers will be pulling up to the bar at a time, and you can pull 2 handles at once, or I guess as many as you want. So you could theoretically play multiplayer, pull up with a buddy and say, hey, I got the left 2 handles, you got the right 2 handles, and we'll hold down the fort here. But nevertheless, playing it individually, and even a couple of my buddies were kind of watching over my shoulder, and we were definitely having a blast with that one, or they were having a blast watching over my shoulder, and I certainly had a blast playing that one. Unfortunately, it is a game that's only available like in arcade mode, and I really don't see a way that it would work really all. Yeah, I guess you could have like, map each of the tap handles to the face buttons, but there's just something satisfying about pulling that trigger and releasing it, and like the springiness and the snapback. And I've bartended over the years in my life, and like it really can be a lot of fun to, I don't know, just to have that kind of emulated in a video game experience for whatever reason. But yeah, some of the other games that we dove into while we were at that same arcade, there was another 4-player. This one was actually 4-player, but kind of like an indie arcade machine called Retro Raccoons. Apparently, I did a little research. It used to be called Tipsy Raccoons, but it's like a 4-player, mini game, micro game kind of situation. Think somewhere between, Mario Party and WarioWare, and it's a 4-player, arcade game. I think you do possibly need to have 4 players, or maybe, it just fills in computer players. But yeah, you play as, there's 4 different colored raccoons, all pixel art, kind of old school. There's a pink, blue, green, and red, I think, or something like that. And basically, some of the mini games, what reminds me of Mario Party is that some of them will be 2-on-2, some of them are a free-for-all. I don't think there were any 3-on-1s or anything like that, but it just throws you like a random assortment of mini games, 8 mini games per round, which might be, playing volleyball or soccer. Like there's a lot of sports mini games, badminton, and it's just like there's 1 joystick and then 1 button. So for example, if you're playing badminton, you just use, I don't think you can even jump. You just move left or right and then press the button to swing the racket. Or if you're playing volleyball, you just move left and right and then press the button to jump and, bump into the ball. And it's just got some, relatively primitive, retro arcadey 8-bit physics, but it just feels really satisfying. It can be a little bit cheap, and it was a little bit of a bummer because it seems like we watched some videos, there were like some gallery shooter, like zombie stages where, these zombies are popping up and ghosts from like a graveyard, and you gotta shoot them and stuff like that. So there was a pretty big variety, but I will say we played 3 rounds of the games with the 4 of us, and they were either, we got a couple of the same games twice, or, volleyball and soccer were so similar. So there was like a little bit of a letdown in that regard, but it was still a really, really fun, 4-player competitive arcade game. Like it was kind of giving me shades, I don't want to oversell it here, but giving me some shades of Killer Queen in terms of just like the camaraderie at the arcade cabinet, or the teaming up and everyone against one another. And I don't know. It just had a little bit of that same energy that I recall, being in the air when I would be at some of the arcades in Chicago, or particularly Logan Arcade in Chicago, and playing some Killer Queen. And then the other game that we played a little bit of, me and my buddy John, not John from the podcast, but a different buddy John, played the Jurassic Park arcade game. And I originally thought it was like a newer game, and it is newer than the original one from the 90s that I remember. But it looks, it's very reminiscent. You hop in the big Jurassic Park Jeep, although this one came out in, I think, 2014 or 2015. And it just feels really satisfying. Like there's no reloading or anything like that. And you just have, each of you have these, there's two players and you have these two like turret guns that you're just aiming, whipping around willy-nilly. And the only, difference to the gameplay or whatever, there might be like different pickups, like a frostbite weapon, which is like a freeze ray, or some kind of electrical ray, or a spread shot, a few different weapons that you can, shoot at and pick up along the way. And then otherwise there's like, you can shoot at these pieces of amber that are hidden across the stages to, get some different collectibles and stuff like that. But one of the things that I thought was really cool, they have 3 different stages that are broken up into 3 acts each. And when you pick up and start playing, you can really play any one of those 9 acts. So for example, it kind of has like a built-in continue system. So for example, if like me and John, let's say we played and got through, the first 2 and took a break, and it was like a beer bar. So let's say we took a break, went and got some food or whatever, we could come back to the machine, pump our, $2 in to get another round going or whatever. And then, keep picking up right where we left off, or pick a new stage. Like, hey, we were kind of stuck on that one, or that wasn't a ton of fun. Let's mix it up and try something else. So I was really impressed with that one. I definitely remember the Jurassic Park original like 90s arcade game being a big hit and like a big draw at like we would go to, I was going to say always go to Dave & Buster's, but we went to Dave & Buster's a few times over the years when, for birthday parties and whatnot. And that was definitely one of the ones, especially if we weren't in the mode. Sometimes I'd go to Dave & Buster's and be in the mode of like, I want to try to win a prize and try to win extra tickets, even though it was almost always a fruitless endeavor, because any of the prizes I got were definitely not anything that I still have to this day. I'd be pipe dreaming about, oh, maybe I'll get a PS3, or maybe I'll get a whatever they had for 25,000 tickets, as I'm here getting 5 at a time on the skee ball machine or whatever. But yeah, it just kind of took me back to some of those days at the arcade. And this coin slot is really, really a cool spot. They had a really great beer selection. A little bit pricey, but that's kind of what you expect. Not anything crazier than, other bars that I've seen and whatnot these days. Everywhere is pretty expensive. But just was a really cool bar. They had a ton of pinball machines. They had monthly leaderboards that get updated, every month, so that, it's not like an all-time, hey, somebody's got the, the high score on this machine and I'm never going to be able to break that. Like, I really like that they have a monthly leaderboard, especially because Traverse City, if you're not familiar with up north in Michigan, it's kind of like a tourist destination to some degree, smaller scale tourism. It's nothing like Disney World or anything like that, but it's definitely, just like a beach town that gets, definitely pretty nice in the summer. So was really cool to find that spot, and cool to see that they've, got some monthly leaderboards. So if you're in town for the weekend or a week or something like that, you can kind of try to hold down the fort while you're there at least. So really had a ton of fun checking out those games and checking out that arcade. And I could dig into some of the stuff that I've been checking out on Switch recently, but I think I'll save those for another time, mostly just some demos and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I'll leave it there for now and kick the ball over to John, Randall, and I for a little more video games chit-chat. Like I said here, sorry to keep it a little bit on the shorter and sweeter side this week. I know I say that all the time, but for once, apart from the intro here, I hope I kept it a little bit on the shorter side, or really had no choice, because I was just like, all right, this is all I got the energy to do before heading back to work tomorrow. So yeah, I think I can probably wrap things up there. And like I said, kick the ball over to John, Randall, and I for some more gaming chit-chat here. And until next week, we will catch you then, and take care. Did want to, speaking of like possible save it for the cast conversations real quick, not to get way sidetracked if we're going to do a double. I'm not going to go into it much here. But I just wanted to, I'm giving myself a little pat on the back here for giving Mario Golf Super Rush another chance.
Oh, nice.
I keep putting this game away, and I just decided I was like playing.
Put it in the trash. You hated that thing.
I know. And I've gone, and I even went back, I think one more time before this, where I was like, I'm going to give it another chance. And I still was hating it. And for whatever reason, after playing, I think I played the 3DS one quite a bit recently. And I was like, I think I played a little bit of even the 64 one on Switch. And I was just like, I'm going to give one more shot to Super Rush, because I was like, I'll bring it over to show it to my nephew and he'll check it out. And he was actually not that bad at it. Nice. And we did play like the actual Super Rush, like racing mode a little more.
You were mentioning,
and it does make the game a lot better. It still has a lot of the flaws that I found with, like, when you move when you're aiming your putts, like it it like erases that grid while you're moving and then it reappears. Like, no, just leave it there.
Yes.
There's still some idiotic decisions, but like I did play through even like the tutorial and stuff. And what I thought you had less control over the like curve and stuff on your shots, you actually have like more in this game. It just works like very, very differently than it does in the other ones. But you can even like curve your shot in like multiple directions by like it like splits up the power meter into like 5 chunks after you level up enough, which I haven't done yet. But so you can be like, oh, I want like top spin for the first half of my shot to keep it low, but then I want to get back spin as it gets closer to the green. Like, I don't know. It just seems like it has elements of it where it has promise for the next Mario Golf game. I guess that's all I'll say.
Interesting.
Okay.
I hope they kind of veer away from that super rush mode, but if they don't, it'll be more fun to like dig into it and play while people are actually playing online and stuff like that. Where like now it's like, I'm sure it's a ghost town. I didn't even look, but
I would imagine.
I can't imagine there's too many people still playing that. But yeah, I was kind of happy with myself for giving that game another chance. And then also randomly I pulled out, I guess after Mikey was talking to us about the DS and like, what game should I play? I was like, you know what? I don't think I ever finished Rhythm Heaven. And there's that new Rhythm Heaven game coming out on Switch.
Yeah.
And so I busted it out and I was pretty much almost finished with it. There was just one more challenge and then like one like remix thing that I hadn't done yet. And I will say, I guess picking it up right there at the very end of the game might have been part of the problem. But man, I was not feeling that game at all, to the point where I was like, oh man, I'm glad don't have to worry about getting that new Switch game. I just find like the rhythm challenges to be like so, the rhythms are just so random. Like, I don't know. They don't have any like melodic. You basically just have to memorize it because it's just so they're just so awkward, and like it's not like, oh, here's like a rhythm and I'm getting into the groove with this song. It's just like they're throwing all these weird syncopated vocal melodies, and it's just like, this is just stupid. I hated it.
Interesting.
I love the presentation of it, but man, I hated it because I'm like, I feel like I should love this. This is like WarioWare meets Elite Beat Agents, and this game should just be perfect.
I wonder if you had ramped it up from the beginning again and not just dumped, like, because like they're also difficult games. Like, I feel
they are,
like,
but like, I played that remix thing where it's like remixing, but yeah, that is supposed to be like the toughest of the challenges, I guess. But
yeah, like I feel like if you had like started over at 0, like it would have like, all right, here's like the basic like thing, and then it like slowly ramps up, or it slowly puts a variation on it where it's like putting you like right at the end of like a very difficult game is like, yeah, there's nothing to grab onto here. Like, I've lost all the muscle memory. I've lost all of like the context for any of these beats. Like, they're like probably like variations upon variations that like are like completely disjointed or like not moored in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some truth in what you're saying to that, but I also do think that like as I was playing it, it was coming back to me. Where I was like, yeah, I kind of remember this being how it was. Like I remember specifically there being this one song, and I could be wrong because now I'm like, maybe this was in a WarioWare game, but it was like this melody and these vocals, and it was like these girls singing, and they were just like, I suppose. And you had to like do the taps at like this, I suppose, and like tap it at that melody, and then it would like switch it up, and it was just this so awkward. Like, there was nothing to me feels musical about that game. It's like all these weird like staccato syncopated rhythms that like maybe if you're like really into drums and stuff like that, which I am, I love the drums, but I don't know, I just really find them to be unmusical in a totally different way than like I complain about like, you know, Bit Trip Runner, where it's like, oh, it's not syncing up like it should. It's like, no, it's syncing up. It's just like not syncing up in a satisfying way, at least to me. I don't know. I completely just erased any interest I had in buying that new Rhythm Heaven game.
Yeah.
I forgot. Did you mention, you talking about the 3DS one or the Wii one?
New, as far as the new one goes?
The one the Rhythm Heaven game that you're mainly talking about that you went back to.
I was playing the one on the OG DS. I guess I didn't know that there were any beyond that.
Oh yeah, it is on regular DS, wasn't it? Yeah,
but I didn't know that
maybe
there was like
a digital
Wii
release
or a console one.
Yeah, there's a Wii one for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh man!
Although I think they only sold that through the Nintendo store or whatever.
Okay,
so it was a limited deal.
Okay, yeah, I thought this new Switch one was like the first one, at least making its way to America or North America. I figured maybe they've continued the series further on in Japan or something, but because I think the first one might have been a GBA game, but again, I might just be mixing. I feel like I'm just mixing it all up with WarioWare in my mind.
Oh, that's understandable for sure.
Like they have that same like spastic energy.
Yeah, so they did
both Ko Takeuchi art.
Yeah. Yep, GBA one, and then a DS one for Rhythm Heaven, and then Rhythm Heaven Fever was that's the Wii one, and then
I
Megamix.
do remember that name.
Megamix was the 3DS digital only for US.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long running of a franchise or series or whatever. But yeah, a little disappointed. I mean, I'm sure maybe like used or something down the road or something, but
Right.
It's definitely not one that I'm grabbing day one. That's for sure.
If it's anything like the Wii one, they
which I'm not
probably
mad
don't have very
about.
many copies physically for it, but at least it'll be digital available ultimately.
Yeah, that's one thing to consider with that kind of stuff. It's like if I ever want to maybe have it, but yeah, I'm just like I'm not really. I wasn't vibing with the game, so no need to force it. Like
No,
I don't need to.
definitely
I don't
not.
need to go into my old way. Like I used to do this with bands. I would just keep buying their CDs because I liked this band at one point in time. It's like well, sometimes a band just makes like one or two good albums or like has a little hot streak there for a minute. And then they stop making good music and I don't have to keep supporting them, you know? Or even if I want to keep supporting them, I can buy their t-shirts or something. I don't know. I have to keep buying their new music.
What game?
Yeah. Killer
Heavy
Queen
Burger.
2.0. Yeah, Heavy Burger. Were you familiar with that game, Randall?
Killer Queen, yes, but no.
Heavy Burger was like published by Data East, and it was like kind of like a Burger Time themed like top-down shooter, and then
with the
fucking love
Nidhogg
Burger
elements
Time.
you were saying,
yeah,
like
with
a tug of
Nidhogg
war,
elements.
like
I just talked. So like yeah, there you start out. I think I forget what the games are, but there's like 6 old arcade games, like Bad Dudes and like a couple other ones, you know, a handful of other ones, and then you're playing like those are the games. I think one of them's even like a billiards, like a pool game, and like so you're like the game's basically like playing. It's a track screen in the background or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And like, you know, characters are running around or shooting things or people are playing pool. And then you're just playing as your like top down kind of Burger Time looking guy running on top. And it's basically like a capture the flag style sort of thing. And then it works kind of like Nidhogg where like if somebody picks up the flag, they take it to like the end zone, if you will. And then it moves to the next arcade cabinet.
Wow.
And then you basically just have to get to the end of the line. And then if the other person brings it the other way, it like gets it to the furthest arcade cabinet they brought it to on their side.
That's really cool, actually.
It's a bizarre concept. The only thing that could make it, I said all this on the Save It for the Cast, but like the only thing that could make it better is if they just had more games to cycle through, you know, for the background stuff, like more variety. And I guess the fact it's still just existing would make it better.
yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, John, like I talked about it on the Save It for the Cast, and then he posted in the Discord like, oh, you know, bummer, delisted game here.
Wow.